You know, most of us go to the movies and most of us enjoy the movies, but most of us don't think, why did that film start at that time and in that cinema? Have you thought that? Well, we have a very special gentleman with us on the show today because Bob Parr is here, who is the program manager of Wallace Cinemas here in South Australia, a little bit into Victoria, New South Wales, all over the place.
Tasmania and Northern Territory.
Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Malcolm.
It's lovely to see you in this environment rather than being in the foyer of a cinema, which is how I often see you.
Yeah, sure.
Now, because you're a program manager, you had to start somewhere to get the knowledge of what people would want to see and how to program. So could we go back to your beginning in the movies?
Okay, Malcolm. Well, I lived not far from the Highline Drive-In on Panorama, opposite the Centennial Park Cemetery. And
Here in South Australia?
In South Australia.
Yep.
And they're advertising for Tray Boys when it opened. And so I applied for the job at 12 years old and got a job as a tray boy, selling Coke and hot dogs. And
so you actually went to the car,
yes,
took orders from the car,
yes,
filled them and then went back to the car.
That's right, yes.
Were the people in the same position in the car the second time?
So, some of them weren't, but I was too young to realise what was going on back then.
I love that. And so have you always just worked in the movies?
No, my father said that there's no future in movies, so I had to go to Holden's and I became a fitter and turner, hated every minute of it for 5 years, but I still worked at the cinema while I was at Holden's. Knock off from Holden's at 4 minutes, ride my bike
well,
to the Piccadilly.
It was dark in the drive-in, obviously.
No, well, I wasn't. By that time, I was at a
moved.
cinema. Yes, that's right. I worked at Unley Odeon and Piccadilly at North Adelaide, all those sort of places.
Well, the Piccadilly is a iconic frontage that so many people in South Australia would recognise, and it has this lovely, is it Art Nouveau type?
Art Deco.
Art Deco, I mean.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the frontage of the cinema.
Yes. And
it was originally a big cinema. It's been with this lovely grand staircase that went up to the dress circle.
Yes, well, it was built in 1940. It was the second and the last cinema that was built by the late Dan Clifford. There were two circuits in Adelaide, Clifford Theatre Circuit and the Ozone Circuit was run by the Waterman family.
Right.
These were ultimately bought by Hoyts, and Greater Union bought the Clifford Circuit. But Piccadilly was the flagship of Clifford's. They loved the place and it was just beautifully designed cinema.
Well, also it's at North Adelaide, which was sort of, I suppose, the dress circle of Adelaide City.
Yes, it could have been. I don't know whether that was their real reasoning. They had fabulous cinemas everywhere. Unley had Chandeliers, the St Peter's Capitol on Paynham Road. Hindmarsh was, which the building's still there, down on Port Road. Semaphore, they had cinemas everywhere.
Sadly, a lot of that beautiful decor, though, has been forgotten or lost.
Well, it has.
Hasn't it?
Well, when Wallace's bought Piccadilly, it was going to close, and Bob Wallace loved the place, and he bought it from Greater Union because he just loved it. But the first year it lost $100,000, and single screens, that is a problem that single screens have.
Single screens, yeah.
You know, there are others. I mean, the Capri struggles, and thank God for the organ. And my beloved Chelsea, where I worked for 40 years, we lost a lot of money there as a single screen. And so Wallace has had no choice but to divide the Piccadilly up to what is now 3 screens. But the auditorium at Piccadilly, when it was a single screen, was never a great auditorium. We used to say that Qantas should hire it and make it an aeroplane hangar. But the outside of the building and the foyers were fabulous. They were so good.
Well, I guess that's what the public saw, but
yeah,
it's the things the public don't see today, the way that projection has changed, that the whole technical side of presentation of movies has changed.
Yes, it has.
What's the biggest change that you've seen?
Well, for many, many years, we changed over every 20 minutes, we changed reels from one projector to another. Hopefully we did that without you as the audience knowing.
Well, you'd see that little flicker on the top,
dot up the top right-hand corner.
Of the screen.
But if you saw a 9876, we missed it.
Yeah, oops. This is a modern, this is one of your cinemas.
Yes, this is Mitcham. And you see there a platter. Now, back in the 80s, we got rid of the spool and changeover, and the film was all joined together on one big horizontal plate.
Yep.
And the reason we could do that is we changed from having a carbon arc where we had limitations on how long the carbon would burn to a xenon bulb which runs for 2,000 hours. And you know, that's the way we would go. But now, within...
So it comes off the middle?
It comes off, sorry, yes, it comes off the middle, it goes through the projector and then down the bottom back onto another plate.
And I've seen them rigged up so that you can be showing the same film in another cinema in the complex, going through all this tracking in the room. It's just amazing.
It's a bit hairy, I can tell you. But I know at Mitcham they've had 4 cinemas going off the same copy.
Yes.
And so
Harry Potter was a film like that, wasn't it?
Yes. So by the time I got to Cinema 4, that was probably running a minute and a half
behind
on the other.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. But in 3 months' time, we won't have any of the 35mm. We've placed the orders today for the rest of our digital projectors. And that is the most major change.
I'm sure it is. So instead of the projectors as we know, this is...
That's a digital projector. Yeah, it's funny, you stand there and you can hear the cooling fans running, but nothing else, there's no other noise, and you look there and there's a picture on the screen.
No sprockets?
No sprockets, no other noise, and the picture's always in perfect focus. It's actually richer in colour. I saw the King's Speech in 35mm and in digital, and it was superior in digital.
Really?
Yeah. So we haven't gone
everyone
backwards.
was a bit worried about that, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Like the real film is not going to be like that.
No.
The 24 frames a second, you won't get the same motion.
No.
But with digital, that's going to change even the film speed.
It is. Well, we had 16...
not speed, but the number of frames.
Back in the silent days, we had basically 16 frames a second, and that's where you could actually see the flicker, and that's why we call it the flicks. But when they got to sound in the late 20s, they had to speed it up to 24 frames a second for the sound. But if we went any faster than that, the film stock we would have required would have been so big that it would have been economically stupid.
Yes.
But now Peter Jackson's currently making The Hobbit.
You've seen a bit?
I've seen a bit of The Hobbit, 20 minutes of it, in 48 frames a second. And where you can really notice it is the panning. And they've got some of those beautiful shots, like, you know, Sound of Music at the start, where, you know, the camera's up in a helicopter.
Yes,
and
with Julie standing on the hill.
Well, you can see on the 24 frames a slight shudder, but with the 48 frames it's just seamless. And James Cameron, who to me is the doyen of today's filmmakers, he's going to do the next Avatar in 60 frames a second. Now I believe the eye cannot see anything more than 55 frames, so he's going to exceed what the eye can actually pick up.
How amazing. Do you think this is the future of cinema, to give a more than real viewing of something? Well,
the screens are getting bigger and bigger, and we want to immerse people in the whole film. So we need perfection in how it's photographed.
But also the sound has improved with digital as well, or can improve with digital.
Yes, it has. Now they just had CinemaCon in Las Vegas, where about 8,000 cinema people go. And they had one there where they've got actually a new one with 60 different soundtracks.
Isn't that incredible?
It is unbelievable.
So that means there's just
when I started, there was one speaker in the middle of the stage.
Behind the screen.
Now it's everywhere. There's no ceiling, it's all speakers.
What do you think has been the biggest change that you've seen?
Well, I think that is the biggest. We're
currently
yes, today. I mean, I've screened at 70mm, which was fantastic with Ben-Hur and all those wonderful old classics. But one copy of the film cost $50,000. One copy. And when they're going out in the world with 5,000, it's very expensive.
Yes, it certainly is. So when next you go to the movies and you see a movie, the thing we haven't really talked about is how you program. We've got like 15 seconds. How do you work out what time a movie goes on and where? Well, we get the running time and add 15 minutes for the trailers and any ads, and you try, especially in these multiplexes, to have the sessions so they're not all at the same time, so, yes. So
it's all seamless and that
freely,
sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so you.
But how do you know what people are going to want to see?
You never do, Malcolm.
Yep.
If I could do that, I'd be much more successful. We'd all be millionaires. But
you'd have your own
people never do what you think.
No, that's absolutely right. Bob, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. This man is a history of movies. Movie presentation, I suppose. You're a movie presenter.
I love it. Yeah, that's what I love. I'm not a film buff. I love film, but I love cinema. I think the whole atmosphere is like live theatre. It's different.
It's seeing the people come and go and enjoy what they've seen.
Exactly.
And take away a memory that's often lifetime memory.
Yes, for sure.
Bob, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, Malcolm.